Sit up straight, Rebecca. This hangout on air is live. Right, I'm Rebecca Bradley. This is Crime Book Club. The date is Wednesday the 20th of August 2014, and this is our year's anniversary.
Oh, is it?
Doing a year, yes. So, a year has passed since we discussed Agatha Christie and Murder on the Orient Express. Can you remember that one, Denise?
Yeah.
So, it's been a year since we did that one. So, I'm really pleased with that, and it's gone really, really quickly.
Yeah, it really has. I can't believe that. It's been a year.
Yeah, I was surprised when I realised.
Oh, we've read some great books.
I know, really, really varied as well. Not just stuff that is current and everybody is talking about. I'm glad we've read some variations.
The other fab thing I think is because we've also had YA. It's been really nice because my son, my youngest, always wants to read what I'm reading. He's particularly interested in crime novels for some reason. I suppose because he's not allowed to read them. So when we read The Sweetness of the Bottom of the Pie, it was one I could then pass on to him, and he's read it twice since then. You know, he's so thrilled to have been allowed to read the crime novel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did he?
So it's opened up a whole new world for him as well.
Yeah. And then did he read the other one as well?
I think that's a little bit too old for him. I can't remember the name of it now, but you mean the one with the cliff top?
Yes.
Yeah, he's only 11 and a half, and his reading level is about 14, but he's still just an 11-and-a-half-year-old boy, so I think some of the things they talk about probably aren't appropriate for him.
Right, yeah. Okay. But The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie was a lovely book.
Yeah, he really likes it.
Yeah, it was.
Which has been your favourite?
Say that again, Steph.
Which has been your favourite book from the whole year?
Yeah. Oh, now you're asking me to remember them all. The Dinner by Herman Koch.
Oh,
right.
You didn't like that, did you?
I liked it against my wishes.
Yes, because nobody was likeable.
Yeah. It was so well written that you just kind of had to like it, but it was a begrudging like.
Oh no, and also The Cry by Helen Fitzgerald.
Oh, that was just...
But you couldn't read that, could you? No. What was your favourite, Denise?
Recently, I saw on Goodreads, and your final sentence was, "The ending tore my heart out." I thought, right, I'm not reading that book.
Oh, that was... I've just reviewed it.
Yeah.
Eleanor and...
That's right.
Eleanor and Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a YA one. You would really enjoy it, but you would like it actually. What's been your favourite this past year? Because you've been here for the year, Denise.
I think Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, because it also allowed me to expand my youngest son's reading horizons, and I think that's really quite special that we could share a novel. And I would not have found that book without this book club, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And Steph, you've been with us for only a few months. What have you enjoyed?
Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie.
Yeah.
The first one I read was The Rage.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the one after that was. I think I've read about 4 or 5, and I think that's been my favourite.
Yeah. That's a really good question, actually, because we have read such a variety of books as well. So yeah, I think those two have been my favourites so far this year, or this past year anyway. So this month we've read Murder in Mykonos by Jeffrey Siger, and as you can see, is a nice shiny book, and it's something that I wanted to remind everybody about. This is a library book. It's got the nice plastic cover on. When we say what book we're reading every month, we don't always have to go out and buy them, because sometimes we do read very current books and they can be expensive, and because people are all around the world, I know we're all UK based tonight, but we are around the world. Don't forget that we can borrow from the library. I do buy a lot of them, but this month I just picked it up from the library. So don't forget that we can do that as well.
That's funny because I borrowed it from the library as well because I went to buy it off on Kindle and it was just ridiculously expensive. And I thought I'm going to go to the library and see if it's there, and it was. And I borrowed it. And I really enjoyed being able to pick up a big, and it was large print as well, which was quite nice
Yeah.
for a woman of a certain age. And it was it's a nice reminder that the library's there for all of us as well.
Yeah, yeah. I do use the library occasionally for older books. I do find that I like to go to the library. So yeah, that's the point. That I know it's come up sometimes that people have said that book's fairly expensive or can't get hold of that book. That maybe try the libraries.
Mm.
So what did you think of this one?
Well, I've just read Stephanie's review.
Oh, I didn't see the review. I only saw the star rating.
I tried to stay diplomatic because I don't like criticising authors' works, but it just wasn't for me. I like the story itself, but I didn't like the writing, and I didn't like the ending.
Okay. But you like the story, but you didn't like the style it was written in.
No, it didn't gel enough for me. I thought it was clunky. If you know what I mean. It's difficult to explain. Parts of it I really enjoyed, but then I just switched off on it again. Whether it was just me at the time, or because sometimes you have to go back to a book, don't you, if you're not really into it.
Do you think that was anything to do with where it was set and the political agendas and that kind of thing? Or do you think it was actually the writing that you couldn't get into?
Yeah, I think it was the writing, because straight away after I read another book set in Greece, which is, I can't remember what it was called, it was that good. But I did enjoy that one, and that was, it was a recent publication. I'll have to have a look. But I enjoyed that one. There's just this, I don't know.
So not one of your favourites
No,
of this year?
No.
No. What about you, Denise?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I suppose I've never read a book set in Greece before, so I felt like I learned a lot. I don't know if what they wrote was true, but I feel like I learned loads about Greece. I've never been there on holiday, but I felt like I had been there after I read it. So I think in that way, for me, it was written really well because it was a very, very visual book. I could really see the scenes and the settings in the area. And I thought the whole premise around the plot was very clever. So for me, it really worked, although I thought it was very rushed at the end. I think they could have moved the pace along a bit sooner, the author. But I like the way it was written. But I can see what Stephanie means about it being clunky. I think it was clunky, and I thought that was because the author was having to teach his readers a lot about a very distinct culture. But then Stephanie says she read another book immediately after about Greece that wasn't like that. So I don't know, because I can only base it on this. This is the only book I've ever read about Greece. So I don't know why that was. And until Stephanie had said, you know, the difference between the two books she's read, I just presumed it was because the author was trying to teach the reader so much about the specifics about the Greek culture and the subculture and the way the men behave there, and then the way certain classes of women behave there, because there was differences between the different classes and ages of the women. Wasn't there very distinct generational differences, I thought.
Yeah. I know one of the things that threw me slightly was that different viewpoints were coming in within the same chapter. What was her name? Annika was coming in within the same chapter as the investigation. They would swap over, and you'd have to be fairly quick to pick up on it. Do you think that is something that threw you, Steph?
It could have been, yeah. I just remembered what book it was I read, Julia Crouch, the other book set in Greece. The differences between them is one was done by an English and American point of view. The Murder in Mykonos is done by the Greece point of view. So that could be, like what Denise said, trying to get it across. I have been to Greece, and I could pick up on it fairly well the way it was described, and it did come across as true with what they are like, especially in rural areas. But yeah, I think it was that it wasn't separation of the you
characters.
just switched them back, and I read it on a Kindle, and you know yourself, it's not as easy to move back and find areas what you want to reread like you can with a normal book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I mean, some of the reviews I have read were amazing, so they really
Yeah.
liked it, but it was just me, I think.
That's
Like,
what
you
makes
had
it interesting, though, isn't it? Because we all have
Yeah.
such very different views. One of these times, well, except for Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, I don't think we've ever agreed on a book.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
We've got like completely different reading tastes. Well, in crime book novels, anyways. I don't know, about any other genre, but it's quite interesting.
Reading is subjective. We all like different things.
You might like to read different things at different times. It's if you've got a cold, you don't want to think about too much, or if you've got things on your mind, you just want a bit of light-heartedness. But
yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the
been to Greece, though? Sorry, have you ever been to Greece, Rebecca?
Yes. Well, the Greek islands. I've been to a couple of those, and the last holiday that we just returned from was Kos. And I do think they're very, very beautiful, and I did find that was portrayed very well. Because I keep going back, and because they just really are so beautiful.
That's interesting because you both have said that now, that you've both been there, and you both think the author has portrayed Greece very accurately. So it's quite that's kudos, I think, to the author really for that.
Well, I did notice on the back of the book, one of the comments is from Greece, a magazine in Greece saying, with 10 million Greeks, how come we had to wait for foreigners to come along to write such a book? So obviously Greeks themselves think that it's been portrayed quite authentically as well. The Greek part of it, to do with the culture and that side of it. What did you think of the protagonist, Andreas, the police chief?
I like him. I felt really fond of him by the end of it. I thought he had a lot of wrong done to him in his life.
With his father.
Yeah, I didn't.
And the politics, I didn't understand that really.
The what?
The politics.
The changes. The regime changes with his father.
But perhaps we'll find out more about that as the series goes on. Perhaps that's the whole idea.
Yeah. And his relationship with Tassos, how did you think that was?
I thought that was authentic.
And then when it turned around at the end, how did you feel?
I was very... I felt betrayed.
Yeah, I was... Without giving too much away about the ending.
Yeah, because you can't.
How I was really surprised by his actions completely.
So was I didn't, but I suppose I'm not very suspicious, I guess, either. But I was, yeah.
But the authenticity in their relationship throughout the book, of who they were as characters, was just so engaging.
I think he's writing about somebody he knew, obviously not that exact person, but really heavily based on a relationship he's had. Did you think so, Stephanie?
Yeah, I think so. I think he has spent a lot of time there getting
Yeah,
to know people, or it's somebody in his family, or
yeah.
anything like that, really.
It was almost like you could touch the textures within
Mm.
it.
Yeah. Um, and then the mayor came along into it, and that was another arm into the relationships. It was just a whole. Did you say something, Steph? Is
No,
my microphone
no.
on? Sorry. It showed an awful lot of how Greece worked. Did it detract from the story at all, or did it bring something to it?
What, showing how Greece worked or the police worked? I missed that.
The politics.
The politics.
The cover-ups, you mean, and
Yeah,
that
and the mayor came
controlling.
along and
Yeah.
I think for me, I found that a bit dull, but I know that's me. I'm sure that's not the book. I just seem to switch off when politics come into things.
mm,
Maybe too much like real life.
um, and what about our Annika, our victim? Any thoughts on her?
I think she'd drive me nuts if she was my daughter.
Well, yes. She was a bit strong-willed and independent.
Mm-hmm. And impulsive, I think, like quite volatile and impulsive.
Mm.
But
Yeah, leave your phone in one country and then go off to another and not tell your parents.
I thought her mum was fab. Like, wasn't her mum a real mum? Like,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
The things she did and like the reach she had, very interesting.
And I liked the sentence where she said to her, was it her husband or her brother, that she could just feel evil around her daughter. And anytime a Greek woman says that, it's taken seriously. And then action was taken. And I was just amazed at that.
But it showed that the author had, I think it showed that the author had a lot of respect for women because he was writing about a lot of careless young women. But when he wrote about the older women, he really saw that he respected, I think he respects women. That was the message that came across.
Yeah, and even though Annika was irresponsible, I think in the end, all throughout what was happening, she did well for herself.
Yeah, I think so too. And I thought that was quite interesting. It's hard to talk about that without giving anything away, isn't it? But I thought it was interesting how she wasn't just always strong and like all the thought process that went on. I thought that was really well thought out, really interesting. And it just reminds me of something you've written. That's what I was, when I read that bit, it reminded me of something I've read of yours.
All right.
Just the way the two characters think, although they're very different characters, obviously. But it reminded me, they got the same quality of character about them, and the way it was written about that was really reminding me of that. But it's difficult to kind of expand on that without giving anything away about either book, really.
Yeah, I get that.
The one thing I didn't understand that I found a bit confusing, I don't know about anybody else, was, I don't even know if I can say this without giving it away, but when she was having breathing difficulties.
Yes.
How did that carry on for so long where she was without her dying? Do you guys understand what I mean without giving anything away about the book? How did she stay alive for so long just in that first bit?
Didn't he must have stopped it.
But still, the space would have been filled with it. Surely.
Didn't she get to air?
Yeah, but not for ages. Well, that was my impression. Perhaps I read through that bit too quickly or something. But my impression was that it was like almost a whole day. And I thought that cannot be humanly possible, but maybe it is. I don't know.
I think she found some place, and it kind of ended the chapter saying, "Has she found this inlet of air too late?" And then obviously they found her. The chapter went back to her again, and she was still alive. So obviously she hadn't.
Was there the serving hatch or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. At the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, he didn't want her. At that point in time, he didn't want her dead.
No, he didn't, because she was too difficult to move.
Yeah. So he may not have. He may know his quantities of how much he needs to put in.
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah. Probably I should have just gone and looked it up and seen, because I'm sure it would have been on the internet somewhere, or something like that.
Yeah.
Were false leads clever? Or was that just me because I like the book? I thought that was really clever.
What was clever?
All the false leads.
Oh, yes.
That was, yeah.
Was
I had no idea who it had ended up being.
I was in the bath for hours reading. That's what's going on.
What frustrated me was how long it took them to actually say who it was.
I wonder if that's true to life. I wonder if the police run around, they have that many false leads, and they've got to kind of if it's that difficult to kind of tie it all together. I thought it was. I've never seen it quite like that, where there was just so many bits coming at Andreas, and he had to kind of follow each one to the end to see whether it was real or not.
I think maybe because they were doing it within such a short time frame before they had to go and tell Athens, that they weren't quite doing it by the book, were they?
No.
So that might be why it was such a mess. It might not have usually have been that way. But everybody did seem to disappear a bit conveniently.
Yeah. Well, there's only so much you can get in that book. It was thick enough that was my book, was that thick, but that might have been the large print.
Yeah. It was it wasn't a thin book.
No.
But everybody that they wanted to speak to just disappeared, and it wasn't all of them. So yeah, if anybody's watching this, not everybody is the killer. But they all do disappear conveniently. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really good book. And it's the first book based in Greece that I've read. And I think I would probably pick up. In fact, I would pick up another one because it is a series with Andreas in.
Yeah. And he's a sweetie.
Yes, he is really, really lovely. He is a protagonist you could really like. In fact, I did really like him.
Yeah.
His moral compass was just wonderful.
Yeah.
I really liked him. I think that kind of drew you along in the book because he was so likable.
Because you did care what happened to him, and that the whole book very much does hinge on that as well. There's a lot going on in that book. I thought it was quite complex.
Yeah. But I do take Steph's. I think it was Steph's comment on board about the speed it was wrapped up in. It seemed to be very quickly finished. Or was it you that said it, Denise?
Well, I just thought they could have started moving it forward faster sooner.
Yeah.
There seemed to be like this kind of lull about 2/3 of the way through the book where nothing happened that much actually, and then all of a sudden it was breakneck speed to the end.
Yeah. But I got really frustrated for the last 10 pages where I still didn't know who'd done it.
Until
And then in the
paragraph.
last, it didn't come out until the last 3 lines. So don't anybody jump to the last 3. If you're one of those readers who jumps to the last line, don't do it, because you'll find out who did it.
Yeah.
Because they really did leave it until the last line, didn't they?
Absolutely. But then the author might be quite proud of that. They, might have spent a long time writing that book so that happened. And you just stamped on that.
I've never seen that happen where everybody's talking about having caught the killer, but then nobody's talking about the name of that killer.
Yeah.
I just thought it was...
said it was possible if someone had asked, because I've not read that done before.
I was beginning to wonder if they were going to name the killer, or if I was going to end up closing the book not actually knowing who it was.
How frustrating would that have been?
Oh, I would have thrown the book at the wall, I think. There would have been some blue language on this video feed tonight. But yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, Denise. You didn't get on with it quite so well then, Steph.
I didn't hate it, and I have read a lot worse. But it didn't really hold. It wasn't one of them. Oh, I've got to pick this up. I need to pick my book up. I need to get back to my book. And at times I thought, oh, I just don't want to carry on. But I carried on because it was the book club one, and I wanted to get to the end. So I am glad I finished it because I wanted to know who it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really had to finish it to find that out.
Yeah.
I know Mel, that usually joins us from Australia, she tweeted a couple of days ago that she'd finished it and she enjoyed it. But I know it's very early in the morning for her there, so it's not a surprise she's not managed to make it. Is there anything else anybody wants to say on Murder in Mykonos?
Would you like to go?
Sorry?
Would you like to go?
No.
To Mykonos?
When Denise and I were talking about it on Twitter, I got followed immediately after, more or less immediately after, by Amazing Pics, I think it were, and he had a photograph on of Mykonos through a church window, and it was just after we'd been talking. It looked stunning. It's beautiful.
Yes, it sounds like one of those places, but it sounds like one of the more expensive, exclusive islands from the way it was portrayed in the book.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's out of my price range. Next month we're meeting on Wednesday the 17th of September, 8 o'clock GMT. The 3 books we voted on were Norwegian by Night by Derek B. Miller, Just What Kind of Mother Are You by Paula Daly, and Precious Thing by Colette Macbeth. And because this is our year's anniversary, these are 3 books that have already been up for nomination but failed to make the vote through to be read. And with 3 out of the 4 votes given, Norwegian by Night is what we're reading. So I think you both have voted, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just write it down, because otherwise I'll forget.
And out of the 3 books, it's actually the only one I have already read, and it is going to be an interesting there's quite a bit to talk about in it actually. It's an interesting book. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's the only one I've not read out of the 3, so.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't read any of them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
And I don't
So I think we've covered everything. Is there anything that I haven't covered or anybody else wants to say?
No.
Thank you both for coming and for being here for the year's anniversary.
That's amazing. I still can't believe it's a year.
I know. I can't. Some crazy idea that I just brought up on Twitter, and here we are a year later still.
It's so much fun though. When everybody joins from all over the world as well.
I know, it's great. I did say Margot did send her apologies. She had a meeting, otherwise she would have been here tonight.
Yeah, I think she said the month before last, the last one I was on, that she wasn't going to be here in August, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, thank you very much both.
Okay.
And I shall see you in a month.
Yep.
See you in a month.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.